Greetings, fellow sword fighters. It is myself, Jonathan, also known as the PC Genie again. Today we'll be talking about these, the Rawlings line swords that I personally use for sparring with and also general practice whenever doing drills or things like that. Now, I must say, firstly, these are, I know they're sold in the United Kingdom. I think they are sold in a few other countries as well, possibly. But they are, well, designed by, I think, someone called David. Selling Rawlings anyway. I've just had a look and it seems they're selling for roughly, depending on the individual ones and the models, which I'll go into in a minute, they're about £50 a piece for a whole complete item. So this, for example, this, which would be, simple arming sword, wheel pommel, single-hander type of blade, and also straight edge. You do see certain sort of broader falchion or cutlass type of broader single edge type designs, but I haven't got any personally. And they also do these, which are of course the two-handed versions. Very nice. Now, in terms of their practicality, one of the useful things is that because they're of course nylon and soft and spongy, as opposed to hard plastic or wooden or, of course, blunt steel training weapons, they don't hit as hard. So you could grab one of these, and really all you need are probably more minimal equipment, like for general sparring, like a mask, gloves, groin guard if needed, that sort of thing, maybe. But with other ones, like especially going into the wood or steel type of range, you'd need heavy padding head to toe and get all of that prepared, and if you don't have all of that equipment costing potentially several £100s, it's quite a disadvantage, because then basically you can have these amazing weapons but you can't spar with them, which would feel rather pointless, especially if, like me, you get a sword and you want to fight with it. You don't just want to pop it on the wall somewhere and leave it forever, especially since they're not, sharps. But yes, on that same note though, because they are sort of softer hitting, they are designed with more flex in them. So as you can see here, quite a bit of bend. Let me just straighten that again. It means that they're great for thrusting, so you can do a good thrust on someone and it just bends off. So you can do even thrusting safely, not just cuts. But it also means that because of the wobble, when the impact, there's that sort of slapping effect, and sometimes hits would happen that wouldn't happen, or hits don't happen that would happen occasionally. It's rare, well, it's uncommon, but it's still a bit annoying, especially when you feel the impact and it goes. But apart from that, there's also the fact that compared to things, it's always worth noting that compared to things like especially sharps, the real thing, these don't bind as much. So normally, if two swords clash edge to edge, normally there's a sort of a bite to it because of the edges cutting into each other. And even in things where you've got especially hardened edges and soft backs, like on things like katanas, actually they're saying you shouldn't even do things like parry with the edge in those cases in real life, because you'd end up chipping it or lock up or break or all kinds of things. Whereas with European swords being one homogeneous piece of steel, things like edge parrying and flat parrying, they're done. It depends on which sources you're looking at. Sometimes you see parries and binding done with the edge deliberately, sometimes the flat. And of course these training swords are always supposed to represent the real thing as much as possible without being dangerous. But yeah, with it doing that sort of bounce, lack of binding, it sort of slips around, and certain binding actions or close play types of techniques are more difficult with these types of plastic swords. And I even had moments where I've sort of accidentally slapped someone with the flat of the blade, or someone's done that to me, and sometimes it's actually quite hard to tell unless you have someone like a judge there, because otherwise it pretty much feels the same whether you've gone with a flat slap or an actual edge contact, pretty much. But yeah, that's the bad side, but actually they're good. They represent pretty much a very realistic length of the two-handed and single-handed swords. I get this. Bearing in mind I've actually taken a few inches. It's a personal preference thing, but it probably would have been about that long. Yeah, you can get one of these sort of things. They are customizable, so I can get something like this, and I could maybe want something like a saber. I don't have to go and buy a whole different one. All I need to do, I'll bring things like, well, this, which is a basket hilt for the same sword. And, I mean, I'll do a quick demonstration. You can sort of unscrew them, and then, you know, take the pommel off, end them rightly. Sorry, I have to do that. But yeah, on a serious note, and you can take it apart. I mean, I'll skip that part, but I'll show you what it's like in each individual piece now. So yes, now you can see here is the blade piece with the threads and whatnot, and then you have, apart from that, the actual cross guard, which of course can be replaced with a you know, basket hilt, or sometimes even what's called a messer type guard, which would actually have what would be in medieval fighting called the nail, which would stick out the side, usually the side of the hand, unless you are, that sounded terrible, but you know, to your right if you're right-handed, or to your left if you're left-handed. And that adds an extra sort of hand protection that you do see on some actual examples of swords, even though it is uncommon. Apart from that, you've also got the actual, well, the handle itself. These, I mean, this is more cosmetic, they're all the same, except of course the difference between single-hander and double-hander. But it's nice to customise the colours, especially if you've got multiple people in the same club with the same type of swords. I mean, I've had to differentiate even further by putting green tape, because I'm Jonathan Green. And finally, I mean, you've got the pommel design. This is a wheel pommel, which I'll show up closer here. So yes, the wheel pommel is sometimes seen on two-handers and most especially on single-handers. Certain oak shot type 14, things like that, ones you see often with wheel pommels as opposed to what are called scent bottle pommels, which are more closer to, let me get you in the light, this sort of shape. But yes, I shall now skip this part, but I'll put it back together and I'll use the exact same blade and the exact same handle piece, but the entire rest will actually be converting it into a saber to show what I mean. And here we have it. So this, actually granted, it's more of a mortuary sword or backsword type of design, because you've still got the straight double-edged blade, but you can see the basket hilt put on there. I see some people actually even cut bits off of these basket hilts, so it looks more like an actual saber and it covers a part of the hand, rather than this, which is more like a mortuary or those types of swords with 180-degree hand protection. So in that sense, if you had a hacksaw or something, you can customise these even more so, but it's still pretty good value for money, especially when you've already got the same parts and buy other bits like new hilts. It actually saves you more money in the future to get more sword variations to do various types of fighting. So yeah, I mean, I quite like them myself. Some people prefer things like black fencer type ones, bits and pieces like that. But I personally think they're better, because these ones are better because actually you can, as I say, practice with less padding on, as opposed to the others where you need to gear up for pretty much tournament level just to maybe do a quick 5-minute spar with your friend at some point. But yeah, it's obviously personal choice in the end, so tell me what you think of those, or other swords for your training that you prefer. And thank you very much for your time, guys. Have a good day. Oh, and just before I go, someone asked in the 300 question special for 300 subscribers how old I am. I'm 23. So yeah, I hope that answers that question. And to the one who asked about Game of Thrones armies, I'm still researching into that. I'll answer the question later, because to be honest, I'm a couple of seasons behind. I don't live under a rock in your terms. I have watched it, but need to catch up quite a bit. So yeah, and I'll be answering more questions later, and see you later.